Hi everyone. In this video, we are going to learn about arrays. So today's agenda is what is an array, how do we represent arrays, and what are the advantages and disadvantages of the arrays. So before going for definition of array, let us take some small use case. For example, if we want to store a student age, how we will do? So we will use an int variable age equal to 17. So this is Java representation of n variable. Here int is data type, age is variable name, and the value is 17. Now let's assume that we have to store age of two students. Then how we will do? Instead of one variable, we will declare two variables. Int age 1 equal to 17 and int age 2 equal to 19. So now what if we have to store 500 values? Is it possible to declare 500 different variables? It is very difficult. So instead of declaring 500 variables, we can use a data structure which can store 500 values. So arrays is one such data structure used to store multiple values of same data type. So array is nothing but which can store fixed number of elements of same data type. So let us see how do we represent an array. So array representation varies from one programming language to another programming language, but the basic idea is same. So array declaration consists of three different parts. One is array name. Array name or a variable name. Second one is data type. And the third one is size. How many values we want to store. So before declaring the array, we have to be very clear with these three. So if we want to declare an array to store 500 values, so we will write the syntax in Java as int is array equal to new int size of the array, which is 500. So here int is a data type. As we are storing multiple values, we will represent using square brackets, and age array is again variable, and here 500 is the size. So when we declare an array, then in memory it will create contiguous memory location for 500 variables, starting with 0, index 0, 0, 1, 2, 3 and so on 499. So here index is always 0 less than or equal to index less than or equal to size minus 1. So how much memory it will take? So it always depends on the data type which we are storing. In case of int in Java, it occupies 4 bytes of memory. So in total 500 different variables into 4 bytes of total memory will be occupied. So now we have just declared array in this case, but how do we store the values in the array? The syntax to add element at specific position in array is array name, and what is the position which is represented, which is known as index, equal to value which we are going to store. So for example, I want to store student 1 age, then I will give age array because I have declared array as age array, and then index always starts from 0, 0 equal to 16, and I want to store another student age, then age array 1 equal to 19. So like this we can store up to 499 index equal to some value. So far we have stored array values, and then how we will access it? We will access array elements using array name and then index. For example, I want to know the value at 7th index. Then how I will get it? As age array 7. If we don't store any value, default value will be considered. For example, here I have given 0, 1 and then only 499. Assume that I have not given any value from 2 to some 100. Then all the values will be 0. So 0 is default value for integer. So when we try to access the element at specific index which we have not updated value, then the default value will be given, which is 0. In case of integer, default value is 0. So these are the basic two operations, like adding the element or updating the element value at specific index, and at the same time accessing the element at specific index. Now let us see some advantages and disadvantages. Now let's talk about advantages and disadvantages of using an array. To understand advantages and disadvantages of an array, let us take some other use case in which we want to store student names who are enrolled for a course. So what we want to store? Student names. This is the requirement. Who are enrolled for course CS. And we want to store the student names in alphabetical order. How do we want to store? Store student names in alphabetic order. For now, assume that we are giving only 15 seats. So for this course, maximum 15 seats are there. And at the beginning, assume that we have already 5 students who are enrolled. For example, this is the use case. 5 students are already enrolled. So how do we define an array? So first we have to write data type. So student name means string is the data type, and we want to store multiple values, which is an array, and we want to give variable name, which is names, equal to new int, variable name equal to new string size of the array, which is 15, because total students which we are assuming is 15. And already 5 students are already enrolled. So first we will store values of 5 students. So names 0 equal to Alex. And here, what is the constraint here? We want to store the student names in alphabetic order. For example, like a attendance registry. How we will store? Usually it is in alphabetic order or some roll number basis. Here in this case, we are assuming it is in alphabetic order. So names 1. So these are the, initially we got 5 students which we have stored in alphabetic order, because A comes first. So find B and then next D and then R and J. So how does it look in memory? We'll be having, so it's something look like 0, 1, 2, 3, 15. So in this case, the values are like LX. So 0 index LX, 1 index Bob, Danny, Roxy, Jenny. So remaining element values will be default values. First, the default value for string is null. So now let's talk about disadvantages. First one is waste of space. So here we are assuming the total, we are giving total 15 seats, but in which 5 seats are already filled. So this is fair enough. What about remaining 10 seats? 10 seats are vacant. and assume that no one is joined even after this. We are occupied only 5 seats and then 10 seats are vacant, means we are going to waste this much space in the memory, because we have to give the size of the array during initialization. This is the one disadvantage, that we are not sure how many students are going to join, even though maximum number of allotted seats are 15. Still, if there are lesser number of students joined, then we are going to waste this much memory. So this is one disadvantage, which is waste of space. Second one is the insertion of specific index. Now let's assume that we have got new student named Carmen, and we have to store this value into the array. So what is the initial requirement? We want to store the values in alphabetical order only. We want to store the student names in alphabetic order. So this comes at this position, means Carmen should be here, and then Danny should be next to this, and then Roxy will be here, and then Jenny will be here. So to insert one value, what we are doing, we have to update the elements which are next to that particular index. How does array look like now? Alex, and then Bob. So new student named Carmen. So we have to update here, because we want to store it in alphabetical order. So Danny will come here, and then Roxy, and then Jenny. So just to insert this value, we are totally doing how many operations? 4 different operations. This is one operation, 2, 3, 4. So in worst case, insertion at specific index takes order of n. For example, a student named Andy joined, then we have to insert here, then automatically all the positions will be shifted. So worst case, it will take order of n time complexity. What is the third one? Deletion. So deletion at specific index. Suppose Alex wants to withdraw the course, then we have to remove this element. How? If we are removing this element, who is the first element in our array? Bob will be the first element in our array. That means that all the values will be shifted to one position left side. So new value will be Bob will come here, Carmen. So again, this is the worst case scenario, because first student itself wants to withdraw, means all the values we want to move one step before, which is again order of n, worst case. So this way we are not able to add or delete elements at the specific index very easily, which is one of the major disadvantages with arrays. Fourth disadvantage is due to fixed in size. For example, I want to store 5 student ages. Then how I will do? New int and then 5. Means size of the array should be not before initializing only. So what if we want to store later 100 different students? So it is not possible. Again, we have to recreate new array, because we can't store more than 5 in this array. Now let's talk about advantages. We already know that arrays are fixed in size. So when we declare array, we have declared array using int a is equal to new into 5, means JVM automatically allocate 5 contiguous memory locations in memory. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we won't be facing any issues like running out of memory error kind of error in future. Second one is random access. Array elements can be accessed using simply by knowing the index. How do we access? Array name and index. So in this case, because age is our array name, then how we will access age, and then if I want to know the age of the at index 2, then I will give simply age 2. So which will take just order of 1 time complexity. Third one is no extra space. Again, we already know that array elements are stored in contiguous memory locations. Means from one element to another element, there is no extra space needed. For example, in case of linked list from one element to another element, we need some link. So this is known as link. So in case of linked list, we are having extra space just to form the link between two elements. So whereas in case of arrays, we don't need any such extra space. So arrays don't need any extra space. Fourth one is arrays are the basic data structure to create data structures like array list, stack, queue, heap, etc. So this is all about arrays. In next lecture, we will learn about how array is being used to create data structures like array list, stack, queue, heap, etc. I hope this video is very helpful to you. Stay tuned and happy learning.